working for You Can, sufficient in energy and practice. He also has worked with Paperman, a recycling startup, and was with Bhumi for 3 years. I welcome Raja sir. I think he is going to be here in another 2 minutes, right, Harika?
He's in the call. He's about to start.
Okay.
Welcome, Raja sir.
Okay, till the time he is coming on board, I would just like to tell the audience that we will be running a live question and answers at the end of the webinar. So we have enabled our question and answer feature. So you can just pop in there any question that you guys have, any doubt that you have. And if you missed anything, don't worry. We will be sending around the demand recording when it's available. I think we have Raja sir with us. Hello, sir.
Hi everyone. A very good morning. So, shall we start with the session?
Yes, sir. So definitely, sir. We can start.
And sorry for the delay. It's
No, not at all, sir.
Really sorry for it. So I'll start with my introduction. So I'm Raja Pandian. So I'm a BTech electronic communication graduate, but posted. Hello, is it audible?
Sir, could you be a little bit louder?
Yeah, please. Hi, I'm Raja S. Pandian. So post my engineering graduation, I was into volunteering a lot. That's where I was able to experience the environmental disruptions we are making as our day-to-day activities, which are causing severe uh, imbalance in our environment. So I was volunteering with a NGO called SSTCN, Student Sea Turtle Network. So wherein uh, we volunteer to collect the turtles' egg from beaches, from their nest in the beaches, and we uh, safeguard them for a period of 1.5 months. And when they hatch, we leave the hatchlings into the ocean. So that's where my interaction with waste plastic, the damaged waste plastic, uh, we use in our day-to-day life. That's where my interaction with them came. With Adyar and other main rivers of Chennai dumping millions and tons of plastic every day into our ocean. So post that, my working with Paperman.
Sir, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Could you just you're not audible, sir.
Hello, is it audible now?
So a little bit more, sir. I think there's something wrong with the volume.
Hello, is it audible now?
It's much better, sir.
Okay, so I was using my headphone. So
okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Now
it's audible. Yes, sir. Now it is audible.
I'll start from the beginning, or it wasn't. Previous sentence were not audible, right? Shall I start from beginning?
Yes, sir. Not a problem, sir.
Okay. So my experience or my volunteering time with Student Sea Turtle Network, that's where my interaction with our waste plastic came in, and it was highly damaging their habitat. That is, the sea turtles. They on their migration part, they travel thousands of kilometers and they come to the beaches of from Orissa or most part of the Bay of Bengal region. So they come in millions, and especially places where there are cities, their nesting or their habitat is being destroyed or polluted with lots of plastic. So while working with or volunteering with in that turtle project, my consciousness about plastic totally changed. So from there on, my personal behavioral attitude towards plastic kind of changed. So when I worked with Paperman, a recycling startup, wherein we helped households and enterprise organizations to segregate, recycle using or connecting local kabadiwalas. So that's where my work with Paperman helped me a lot towards a solution for a common problem, which as a community we haven't been made. So after Bhumi, I moved to Sholay School. It's located in the eastern Palni Hills of Kodaikanal. It's a beautiful campus, a 400-acre campus surrounded by Sholay forest, reserve forest, spotted with elephants and so many other wild animals. It's a beautiful place. And one specific or highlight about the school is it's fully sustainable. There's no electricity connection from outside. There is no water connection from the local authority. It's totally self-sustaining campus, a 400-acre campus, and they generate their power from solar electricity and using a micro hydro water power, hydro power. Then all their waste, the school, it's a very small community wherein they have regular visit from volunteers from around India and from other countries. So it's a self-sustaining community. Again, the school doesn't have a housekeeping department. That's one major point, because as a community, everyone in the school have their duty to provide time to segregate or clean the campus. So it's a duty of everyone in the community. So one difference between an institution, a school, or any other organization in a city or an urban scape, and a community like this is everyone are very closely related, and everyone knows the problem, and everyone are into maintaining the campus. So it's not like a separate department handles it. It's a part and parcel of everyone's day-to-day activity. So that's one major thing. And the school was founded by Mr. Brian Jenkins from London under the philosophy or the teachings of J. Krishnamurti. So he worked with J. Krishnamurti for around 12 years, and inspired by his teachings, he came down, settled in Kodaikanal, and he started this beautiful alternative self-sustaining school. So over there, I'll brief you the activities. Being a off-grid campus, the whole school is run by solar and micro hydro, and all the food waste or all the wet waste are handled by a biogas plant, wherein they are made to decompose, and the biogas is used for cooking. And the water supply, the school being located in a valley, beautiful valley, the water is a stream's water is channeled towards the higher portion of the school, and using gravity, the whole school's water connections are filled. Then we have a recycling room. The Sholay School's recycling room is very vibrant. It's every day there'll be some activity happening. It'll be either students or volunteers. So the recycling rooms activities like every day's waste from all the living quarters, from the classrooms and other places, they'll be brought to the recycling room. Over there, students or volunteers, they segregate it. So if you take plastic or any waste, we can segregate into different categories, mainly recyclables and non-recyclable. So all these recyclables are categorized, and they'll be sent out to a waste man. There are non-recyclables, especially our food wrappers, the packed wrappers, which are not recyclable. Sholay has found a solution for that. What is it? These non-recyclable wrappers, they are collected, they are shredded using a machinery. They are shredded into very small pieces, and they are packed in, collected in sacks, and it will be sorted. So Sholay has a very small patch of tarmac road. So every year there'll be once a while maintenance or laying of new road in some sections of the school. So these shredded plastic, non-recyclable plastics are used in the road laying process. So they are heated with butadiene and they are shared. I'll share my screen. Wait a minute. Hello. So is there an option to share my screen, Yashwadra?
Yes, sir. You can share your screen, sir. Yes, sir. You can share your screen. So there would be an option available on your screen, share screen, just next to the chat.
Yeah, I clicked it. Is my screen visible?
No, sir.
Okay, that's an error. So sorry, I couldn't share. So I'll continue. So yeah, where I left. Yeah. So Shola is other than this plastic rolling project. We have the biogas plant, and most of Shola's electricity is produced using solar plants. And during cloudy times, they have a small hydro project, a small we call it micro hydro. So water from the stream, using the elevation, water from the stream will be flushed out, and a generator will be run using that force. And during cloudy times or rainy times, when the solar panels doesn't work, they generate their electricity using the micro hydro. And most of the cooking gas or heat for cooking will be used channel from the biogas plant. So both food waste and other restroom waste are channeled to the biogas plant and generates enough cooking gas for them. And suppose that it's an alternative school, so there is no uniform, or you won't find that as a conventional school. Most of the classes happen in outdoor, and so it's a everyday, the daily activities. Most part of their daily activities happens in the outdoor. Being a very vast campus, it helps a lot for the children to learn in their own pace, and their time with nature is a very big part of their learning. Other things, and apart from that road laying project, other non-recyclable plastics are there's a new project happening. It's called pyrolysis, where they are trying to heat, or they have a small mechanical system wherein the plastic will be heated, and using a distillation process, they'll procure, or during the distillation process they'll have a polyfuel. Like it's not purely diesel, but
So could you share the presentation? You have to double click on the window that you are sharing, sir. Sir, is there an option that is coming to your screen as share screen?
Yeah, it's coming, but when I click share, there's some error code showing.
Sir, it will ask you only host or panelist.
Yeah. Still the error code is being shown.
Sir, will it be possible for you to quickly share your presentation to Yashwada on mail?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. It would be great. I'll share it then.
Yeah, I have mailed the presentation as well. Have you received?
Sir, I received it. Just give me 2 minutes. Sir, you can continue. In the meanwhile, we will share it, sir.
Yeah. So apart from there's a pyrolysis project which I mentioned lastly. So yeah, so the Sholay School is located in this campus. This campus name is Center for Learning, Organic Farming, and Appropriate Technology. So all the technologies which I mentioned, micro hydro, biogas, solar power plant, the plastic road, so appropriate technology deals with solutions very possible and convenient solution for our environmental problems. So that's what appropriate technology means. You can go to next slide. So the school is located in East Palani Hills, as I mentioned. So this is J. Krishnamurthy. So he's an Indian educationalist and philosopher. So Sholay's core value were built upon his teachings, J. Krishnamurthy. So this is the main campus of Sholay. That's our auditorium and other classrooms. You can move. So this is Brian Jenkins. So he worked closely with J. Krishnamurthy in UK for around more than a decade, and so he settled in the current Sholay campus 30 years back, and he started it from a conventional farm. He procured all the lands and he changed into a very vibrant, environmental friendly campus for Sholay School. Next. This again. So the school is located in a valley. So the campus is located in both sides of the valley, and you have a small stream which runs in the middle. So Mr. Brian Jenkins is standing on a wooden bridge, which is used by everyone to move from the east side to west side. And this wooden bridge built uh, by a group of engineers and students. So for that particular year, the whole school students, they worked on this wooden bridge as a project. So it was partly built by the school students. Next. So this is the snippets of the school. You could see the organic farm. So every week, a student has to spend around like 4 hours, 2 hours every week in the farm. It's in their curriculum, and you have the school is regularly visited by volunteers who stay around for a week or more, and they volunteer in the school farm and other places. Next. Then volunteer working in farm. So the school has a very viable garage and machine workshop. And so the culture of you can see we have currently the culture is like we buy numerous gadgets, and once it's repaired, we just throw it out. We don't have this habit of repairing or reusing it. So over here, it's in the core of Sholay to repair and recycle anything. So the school's vehicles, all the cycles, any machinery or electronics gadgets or any components, they try their maximum or get help from other experts, even from outside, to repair anything. So the students, it's in the behavior of the students to, it's imparted in their living, that they have this option of repairing and working closely with other technicians to uh, reuse and repair any components. Next. This is the auditorium. So theater is a major part of the school's curriculum. So it's a weekly activity, and from primary till the higher secondary students, they have this theater every week. So most children who newly joined, or children who have this psychological uh, what, any problems, like they feel very say insecure, or they are very they are not, if they are not opening up to the community, so theater helps them a lot if they have any of these kind of small glitches. Next. Again, students in farm class. Next. So there are around like three waterfalls around nearby the school. So every month we have a trekking day. So we plan it, and post breakfast we go for a trekking to either of one among the falls according to season. According to the elephant, the during a certain part of the year there'll be wild elephants around. Except for that month, other months it's a regular thing for the students and staff to go on trekking every month. Next. This one among the falls. This is a biogas plant which I mentioned. So the school has a cow shed, like around 12 cows, and most of the school's dairy needs are met from the cow shed. And the cow dung, major part of the cow dung is used in this biogas plant and for the farming process also. This is a solar heater. Being in a hill station during winter months, the need for hot water is very high. So instead of using firewood or other means, they have solar heater for their hot water needs. This is a recycling room I mentioned. That's a volunteer. So they have different compartments wherein when the waste from the living quarters and other places come into the room, the students and volunteers, they segregate it first. So whatever according to the process, like metal, plastic, cardboard, different kinds of plastic, all these will be segregated. Even the engine oil, the used engine oil from the vehicles are collected, and they are used for other wood maintenance project. So nothing goes to the landfill over here. Next. So this is a plastic road laying project. You can see a sack nearby the person. That's a shredded plastic. So while mixing tar, bitumen with the earth metal, these shredded plastic are mixed with it, and they form a layer of plastic around the blue metal. So this helps with the life of the road, or the potholes, occurrence of pothole is very less, and the life of the road increase when plastics are used. So these shredded plastic are distributed to the other when a nearby, when they lay road in the nearby village or nearby places. Sholay school gives them the shredded plastic to use in that also. This is a elephant club. So at center is an expert called Shiva Ganeshan. He's a very close well-wisher of Sholay, and he, along with the students, and I was teaching environmental science at Sholay, so we formed a elephant club. So once a while there's occurrence of human-animal conflict around the villages. So Sholay's elephant club, the students and staff, we we worked in projects, or we created small techniques where which will help to help the farmers and other villages to deter elephant without harming them. So previously they were using crude methods like using firecrackers, or making loud noises and throwing other fireballs, which kind of instigated the elephants, and there it was a mess. So there were few casualties also. So when we started this project in Sholai, we collected elephant dung from the forest. We mixed it with other oil, tobacco, chilies, and those kind of things. So when these we call it elephant dung cake. So when these pieces are burnt, the smell kind of deterred, or it was unpleasant for the elephants. So Elephant Club was another very lively part of Sholai's activity. Next. So yeah, so we'll come to the topic, recycling institutions. So this elaborate description of Sholai was, I wanted to make the point that we won't be able to recycle or bring in lots of environmental friendly activities if we think as an institution or a hierarchical institution. But when we think or come together as a community, we'll be able to solve this problem. So every institution, every schools or organization, if they only when they look this as a problem, when they look plastic or all this environmental degradatory practice as a problem, and when we come together as a community, we will definitely will be able to solve this plastic problem. So that's when recycling is a small part of the solution, but only when we come together as a community, we'll be able to change this problem. That's when I move this. Next slide. So this again close to heart philosophy. Anything this for even normal education or any for any problem solving thing, this works. So these are 3 H and Gandhian philosophy of teaching. Like when we move into problem solving, that is over here plastic, which is we want to do recycling. So in a scenario of institution, the knowledge or the know-how of how to handle recycling has to be first given. Then an interaction wherein that knowledge is the head part, then over here heart, that is reflection. So when we come together as a community and when we have a discussion and bring out a reflection about the problem, we'll be able to come out with lots of solution, different recycling or different solutions for it. The third part is action. When we, after discussing or after reflecting our different solutions for the problem, we can get down into action and come out successful from that problem. Yeah, next slide. So these are things we have to act for a problem solving over here, recycling. So as a group, questions has to be asked, then a data has to be collected. Data as in, if it's a school, a data of what kind of waste are there, waste is generated, and how presently how it's being handled. So generally it's either it goes to the landfill or garbage yard. That's a general scenario. Then the third point is visualize a solution, how to with the data, how to handle the plastic problem. Then we create a solution and act on it. Next. So from my experience with Paperman, is we work with lots of MNCs and organizations. So the first thing is energy audit, where for most schools, electricity and water are a major place where it's not looked out when lots of waste or carbon footprint is created. So if an institution is looking for a looking towards solving their problem of energy and recycling, they have to look towards electricity, or how they are using the electricity and how much water is being used. They have to make an audit and calculate it. then they can look towards solutions where they can reduce their consumption. Next. So waste audit. So when we did a waste audit for Hindu newspaper office in Chennai, what we did was new waste bins were placed in all the regular bin places. So for 24 hours, waste were collected in the new bins. So post 24 hours, the bins were removed, and we collected the whole waste collected in that 24-hour time, and we segregated it. Then we made a database of the details, what kind of waste is being generated on a daily basis. Then we segregated, and we are able to make a solution like for all the recyclable waste generated in the premise. There will be monetary value for recyclable waste. So only when they mix with food and wet waste, their quality of recycling goes down, and mostly it's not recycled. They just end up in landfill. But once segregation is done, the recyclable recyclable waste has a value, and there are people who make livelihood out of collecting these recyclables. So it's a very easy solution once it's segregated. Once wet and dry waste are collected separately, right away it's very easy for people who are in recycling to come and collect, and they even pay for the recyclable waste they collect. The next is wet waste. So when an institution's wet waste, that is food and other, mostly food, it's predominantly food and kitchen and food waste, when they are collected separately, every institution can have a small decomposition pit, and if handled well, there won't be any foul smell or any dirty output from it. When handled well, in a matter of 3 weeks, any amount of food waste or wet waste can be decomposed, and it can be used for any gardening or any work. Next. And post recycling, if an institution is looking towards going green or finding solutions to or making themselves more sustainable, they can make a composition of energy, electricity, water, different kinds of energy they are using, and they can plug in the holes where they are wasting it. And if they are building up from ground, there's a certification called LEED. So different architect firms, they provide this. So it mentions, or it precisely look into how efficient the buildings, lighting and air ventilation and different, what kind of material they are using. All these things are taken in account. So if an institution is building from ground up, they can use that. Then how they handle waste, that's another thing. So reducing their amount of usage, then reusing whatever material they can reuse, and post that recycling. So having a segregation room and segregating waste and recycling is very much possible. Sholei's recycling room is a very good thing, and it's a very vibrant place where students and volunteers, they actually work on a daily basis. Next. Yeah, that's a small, that's how our normal class happens. There's no uniform, or most of our classrooms are outdoor. We have discussions, and only when we need to use blackboards or whiteboard or audio visuals, we move towards classrooms. So that's a small time with Sholay. So that's it. So if anyone have a question, we can move towards.
Thanks a lot, sir, for the insightful information and the presentation. So before we move on to the question and answer round, I would request Akanksha to walk us through the website of Bhumi. There are a lot of interesting contests and webinars that are going to come up this month, because this is Plastic Free July month. So I'll just request Akanksha to share the screen with all of us. So this is the website of Bhumi, and this is Plastic Free July. This month is being celebrated as plastic free. If somebody wants to calculate their plastic footprint is same as carbon footprint. You guys can click here. And how many bottles, plastic bottles that you guys are using, you can type in here. So this is the total plastic footprint that you all have left. So it's a very unique way of calculating plastic footprint. Could you scroll down, Akanksha? Yeah, great. So these are few webinars that are going to be held in this month. So I would request all of you to please take part in this. We are done with webinar on plastic-free institutions today. The next we have a panelist discussion on plastic in our food. That's tomorrow at 11 a.m. We also have many contests. Best out of waste, share your switch stories, meme making count. So if you guys want to participate in this, do log in. And the most important thing is that we have a form here. This is Plastic Free July Challenge. You're just supposed to fill it up. And at the end, there's a very unique question. Could you scroll it down, Akanksha? Yeah. I'm taking the challenge as. So today we came to know that how our institutions can be plastic free. So someone who wants to take this challenge can actually participate it in as an organization. I will involve my school, college, office, or whatever you want, and you can just submit it. So that's all about the website. We will move on to the question and answer round now. So Abhijat has asked, how many kids study in the school and what kind of skills are taught there? So would you please answer this question?
So Shola is a very small community school, alternative school. So the number of students is around 65 to 70. So they have a policy to not increase beyond this number. So it's J. Krishnamurthy's idea that schools has to be a very small community where everyone knows one another, each other in a very, they have a good relationship. So it's not, most of J. Krishnamurthy inspired schools are in population of this kind, like less than 100. They doesn't go beyond 100. So it's all, the ideas began like schools has to be smaller communities.
Okay.
And skills wise, Sholai follows Cambridge International's board syllabus, and students have the options to either appear for Cambridge or NIOS, National Open School Certification.
Okay.
And apart from that, CLOTS, they involved in CLOTS program, that is farming and all appropriate technology activities will have participation from the students. Like I mentioned, the wooden bridge in the school. So it's a infrastructure project in the school, which actually involved interested students in it.
The next question has been asked by Jay Sagar. He has asked, how do we identify recyclable and non-recyclable items?
Yeah. So it's according to the place. So if it's a household, all our metals are recyclables. And when we take plastic, all hard plastics are recyclable. Only the wrappers are plastic which are lesser than 100 micron or non-recyclable. So we can't totally avoid plastic over here. Only when we misuse, or when our usage of plastic is uh, not done without consciousness, it hurts the environment. So when we use plastic, or when we our buying decisions are towards towards recyclable plastics, I think they are a bit greener than when our buying decisions move towards uh, these food wrappers or use and throw plastics. Only during that times, or plastics are non-recyclables. So all our electronics and electrical components, metals, hard plastics, cardboard, papers, even the milk wrapper, when it's washed and segregated, it has a recyclable value for it. The kabadiwala will buy it from you if you have 1 kg of milk wrapper, a cleaned milk wrapper. Because I'm asking you to clean it, because when you segregate it, if it's clean, there doesn't emit any foul odor. If you clean it, so, and they have a value for it also. So when we don't mix food that is wet waste with any dry waste, the kabadiwala will be happy to go through it and collect all the recyclables. And once you know the quantity of non-recyclable, you will be in a better position to decide how to procure things. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question has been asked by Abhishek Venkat. He's written, well presented, Raja Anna. With regards to the Elephant Club, have you and your students done any outreach work with the indigenous community members there in terms of raising consciousness about importance of elephants and mitigating human-elephant conflict?
Yeah. So the Elephants Club, we have a weekly class wherein we spend time to prepare that the elephant dung cake which I mentioned. So we go into the forest, we collect the dung, we procure the items, and the students actually mix the chili powder, tobacco, old engine oil along with the cow dung. We mix and we compress and make cakes. So these uh, elephant dung cakes are distributed to the nearby tribal hamlets and other village farmers, and they use it around like 4 to 5 months of year. There'll be presence of elephant in that location. So during that times, these elephant dung cakes are given to the farmers and nearby tribal hamlets. So they use it, and uh, so for them it's a it's an economical option also. So instead of buying crackers for very higher prices, they get it for free and they find it very useful. And there are other solutions which we worked also, like growing biofence. They call it in Tamil, they call it Suramull. It's a thorn plant. It's a thorny plant. So along the elephants are very intelligent to break the solar fencing. They push down trees on the solar fence, and once it's short circuited, they get in. So they are very intelligent animals. So but when we moved in for this bio fence using a thorny plant as a fence, it worked well. So since their trunks are very sensitive to these kind of thorns, they avoid the boundaries where these thorns are planted, and it was a very successful solution directed by the expert I told, right? Dr. Shiva Ganeshan. So the school actually worked in raising these plants in the nursery, and they were given out. And other we interacted with other human elephant conflict areas, and different solutions were tested and tried by the Elephant Club. So it's a very interesting activity, and it's still, the club is very active still now. Yeah. Thank you.
Next question has been asked by Nikita Rakala. She has asked, what are some ways to promote use of non-recyclable waste for roads?
Yeah, so this trend of using non-recyclable plastic in road building is catching up. So in Tamil Nadu, there's a professor in Madurai Tyagaraja University. So he's an expert in this, and he has worked with different state governments, and even in Bhutan's, he worked with Bhutan's government very closely, and they made a very good patch of road in as a pilot project. So it's a viable solution, and different governments are working in it. So, and the technologies like South Africa, UK, and there are different startups in these countries. They are coming up with different technique. Some are patent, some are outsourced, open source. So, if a firm or if an institution is very much interested, they can go online, and it's easy to find the firm or person who will be able to guide them in this usage of plastic in road laying projects.
Vishali Rajan has asked, how can institutions begin their transition towards sustainability?
Yeah, so as an institution, I feel it's a collective work. It's not a hierarchical thing wherein the top of the institution they decide and they try to implement it. So I feel it won't be very much successful. We are looking over here. We are looking for a behavioral change. So the institution, the whole institution has to come down as a community. They have to discuss, and the major part is they have to look this as a problem. Look into usage of plastic and other day-to-day activities which are harming our environment as a problem. So once their thinking starts in this process, they'll be able to they'll be able to make a collective decisions. It can start anywhere, like I mentioned in the PPT. So they can make a energy audit. They can look into their usage of energy, electricity, water. If it's a school or institution, it can be stationaries. How they procure stuff, how they are using logistics, transport, their building, even their construction decisions can be made. And wherever energy is being used, they can make an audit. They can make an audit of their waste, and they can bring in. There are lots of people who are ready to help freely for institutions. So it's not a very costly process also. But once these solutions are implemented, it's a cost saving solution again. So in the long run, if a solar or if the solar plant is implemented, or their school's water usage is audited and controlled, in the long run, it's financially it's very economical, and even some projects have financial returns also. So definitely people can look out for experts who will be able to guide them in problem solving their problem solving to make the institution more greener or sustainable. Yes.
So, sir, these are few challenges that the institute faces when you have to implement plastic-free institutions.
Yeah. Again, being a we are looking for a behavioral change. We can't do policing and wherein rules are implemented. So people, again, it'll end up it won't be a consistent project solution. So when the students my suggestion is the school can form an eco club where it has a board of students and teachers, where they come collectively. They work around the year. They have weekly activities where the schools usage or schools waste handling is looked into, and they can collaborate with the housekeeping department. So it's a very good learning experience for the students also. So what kind of products, even if it's for housekeeping, there is always an alternative solution for all our violent method of handling waste or other things. So if it's let's say for the housekeeping department, they're using harsh chemicals. There are bioenzymes readily available in the market, and even the school students can make EM solutions. So likewise, segregating waste, anything, eco club, forming a eco club, and um, making a small group of people, the housekeeping staff, students, and the management. If they come together as a small team, and if they look for a consistent year-round solution, they'll be able to, in a matter of months, definitely there'll be a massive change. I suggest that instead of institutional rules or policing kind of activity.
And sir, how do these institutes ensure sustainability or ownership?
When the ownership trickles down to the students who form the major proportion of the institution, when the ownership trickles down to the students, I think that's where success starts. When the students look this as a problem, and when they want to work towards a solution, their purchasing or their decision, how they what kind of plastic they bring in, what kind of plastic they use, and when the school is supportive towards that in segregation and in recycling, when the students are again involved in recycling, I think it's a collective work, and definitely in a shorter period there'll be a very good change, visible change.
Okay. Sir, Anusha Gupta has asked that what are the typical professions the students are taking up post completing studies? So
In Sholay, oh, okay. So since they are completing Cambridge exam, some of our students, they go abroad for their UG, and there have been students who have taken arts, who are moved into art as a profession also. And we have occupationally, there was one student who was not that like his CGPA was not that good, but still he had interest in cooking and other stuff, farming and cooking. So he found that studying food technology will be very appropriate for his future, and he's doing food technology in UK currently. And some students they go into art, if they find, if they have a knack of painting or music, they go towards that. One thing which will be which won't be visible from a conventional school point is there won't be too many students for medical or other hardcore IIT. There's no there is no take for a competitive arena.
okay. I think they can even visit the website of Shulai School if somebody wants to know more about it. So I would be moving on to the last question that is asked by Shelpa Menon. Environmental education to students foster healthier schools and institutions. Are you thinking of collaborating with more institutions and imparting this education to them?
Yes. So if we take Sholay, around the world, there are around like a handful of schools which are run directly by Krishnamurti Foundation, and a good number of schools which have been started inspired by Krishnamurti's teachings. And I currently work with UConn, which is an environmental conservation project. We work with schools. So I personally work with students to create organic farms in schools, and we work in an area where we are trying to connect the curriculum's learning points in a garden space. So we are trying to explore the learning possibilities of maths, physics, all the conventional mainstream subjects in a garden space. So my work is towards that, and definitely there are lots of people who are working in this area, trying to impart or bring sustainability knowledge towards the for the schools.
Okay. We are running out of time, but I would ask one more question.
Yeah.
Sir, this is by Tondehal Ravindranath. In a residential complex, how can reduce plastic and reduce landfill? Okay.
Yeah. Over here, let's take an apartment as an ideal place. So if there are 100 households, every apartment has an association wherein they handle their day-to-day activities like water, power, all these things. So if the association makes it a point to form a waste handling policy, wherein every household has to segregate their waste. They can bring in when there is a waste collection process. They can have one bin or one collection area where all the dry waste are given, and another for wet waste. So if the apartment area has a very small if they can allocate a corner space for compost pit or biogas plant, all these collected waste, food waste, the wet waste can be dropped in the biogas plant, and they can use it as a community kitchen cooking gas, and the slurry can be used in the apartment's garden. And again, the dry waste, all the dry waste can be segregated in a isolated place. And uh, one good solution for waste in metro is every area has a kabadiwala, a waste paper man. So they can make a contact with the nearest paper man, the kabadiwala, and once he is very trustworthy, then there's no problem of security issue also. So he can come in every week, he can go through the waste, he can take out the segregate the recyclables. He'll be more than happy to even pay for the recyclables he collect. And the non-recyclables, the apartment, according to the volume they are collecting, they can make a decision. They can broadcast to the members that okay, we are every week we are generating this many kgs of non-recyclables. So if we can, if everyone may make the decision to reduce their non-recyclable waste, that is food wrappers, use and throw plastic, as a community they'll be able to reduce it. And using that non-recyclable, they can contact if there is a plastic roll laying project. If there's a in Hyderabad has a plant where non-recyclable plastics are used in the pyrolysis project to make polyfuel. I think some part of Chennai also has it. So if the apartment, if they're very serious about handling non-recyclables, they can approach these kind of projects, and they can make it as an monthly activity to send out these non-recyclables to the pyrolysis than a landfill. So if they come down as a group and work seriously, it's very much viable. It's not that complicated. It's viable. And likewise, they have lots of takeaway also. For the recyclables, they can get back monetary value. For the wet waste, they can get back compost for the garden, and uh, cooking gas for a community kitchen. So it's very much viable, and there's lots of takeaway.
I think we would wrap up now. I would like to thank Raja sir for giving us so many insightful information about plastic-free institutions. Thank you very much, sir. And I would like to thank everybody in the audience for being such a great and wonderful audience. And I think, Anusha, you can reach sir anytime. We would give you all the insightful information. Right, sir?
Yeah, definitely. People can reach out in my email ID, and I'll do whatever I'll be able to help in that particular issue.
I think Akanksha has provided, Anusha, Akanksha has provided you with the sir's email ID. Okay, somebody is asking for your contact details, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. It was a very good time to share my experience. And if everyone has any queries, we can continue our mail communication. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Just a quick reminder for everyone, please do visit the Bhumi website and take part in the contest and the coming webinars this weekend. I think the email ID has already been given by Akanksha. Thank you all. Where can we find the list of webinars? Anusha, it is on the website itself.